So you're probably seeing this and going, whoa, whoa, you just jumped a lot of progress. No, I did not. This is just sitting on top of there. I was just doing some mock-up work last night. Before, I was having a really hard time shifting it. It was impossible to shift before I cleaned it. After I fixed it, if I had a vise, I could barely shift it. These aren't tightened, but it shifts really smooth now. Regardless, I was just doing some mock-up work about where I want stuff. This is the original frame piece that was actually right here. It was a little bit further in, and I'm thinking about putting it around the same spot. I do need to widen this a little bit so we can get our hover-round seat in there. I have this 1-inch angle iron back here. I measured the seat 16.5 inches wide, which puts that around there-ish. I don't quite know where I want things to go right now, but I do want this to be mounted somewhat vertical. I probably will end up keeping this on the outside because all of this welding is already done. It just makes things easier for these to be in line still. Like I said, this is just some angle iron that's sitting on there. And I was measuring this and down to here, so that's 13 inches, because over here, you can't see, there's about a 1/2 inch gap between the bottom part of this and that same foot peg. And I was wondering, well, why's that? The frame is slightly twisted, and not anything I did. I mean, I cut the frame in half, you know? So I think there was just welding stress from the factory. Cut back to the video when it went twang, basically. Anyway, so from that, there's a little bit of twist in it, and this is about 1/2 inch lower on the foot peg side than that side, which explains why things look like just a hair down on that side. And for anybody wondering, I did fix the camber. You already saw that whole 40-minute long video. You don't need to see me fixing the camber again. They are a negative camber, so the bottom of it kick out a little bit, tops are a little bit in. It's around 1 or 2 degrees, and I had to do that. I could get this frame geometry figured out. I need to cut this original seat mount, make it lower, and this is pretty heavy, and it's not because of the seat, it's because look at all of that metal. There's like 1.5 inch square tube back here. Yeah, it's way more metal than we need. Yeah, I know it looks a lot more bare bones now without those on it. So I have to give myself enough room for the rear transmission mount. Oh, hi Milo. So I think I'm gonna cut right underneath whatever the heck this mount went to. On the welding table, I added a shelf underneath so I can put all the cut off bits if I ever need it for something else later. Oh, whew, forgot mask. I can taste the metal in the air. That's how you know. Let's get this level. That works. Oh, jeez, my God. Ah. That's not right, huh? That's way too far forward. Obviously not like that, but these side rails right here, they're gonna be in the way of this. Yeah, it already is. I kind of feel like that looks funny. Oh, yikes. Yeah, this is way too far forward. Yeah, the steering wheel's gonna be like here. The height, it's a little low. Yeah, it's a little bit low. Your feet are, well, I don't know. Is it too low? It might be just be a factor if it's way too close so it feels like it's low. There's going to be a panel for feet even higher so you don't touch the drive shaft. So yeah, this is probably too low now. Well, I can move it about another 2 inches back, but anything more, it's touching the rear shock. So let me remove this rear bar. Okay, I feel like that was holding the fabric on, so. So this is off. Got this nice tabs here. Ooh, those line up really nice. What if I put that in there like that? Let me go get the clamps. There we go. I don't know. That looks way too high and too far forward still. Well, I guess on the good side, the front right mount is on the support for this. Ooh, it's definitely higher. Tilts you forward. Really don't like how close my knees are to this. Oh, I might have to get another seat. This is not my weekend. Yeah, the seat cushion, the fact of how this frame works, it pushes me a whole about 3 to 4 inches further forward. It's just, yeah, it's just too big. Okay, well, that's a bummer. I'm gonna have to get something that where you sit realistically around here versus up here. I know I'm not supposed to sit on these, but I just want to give a general idea of how this is going to end up working. Because if I sit this far back, right around here, oh yeah. Yeah, you're going to have plenty of leg room, plenty of hand steering room. Yeah, that's the solution for that. Okay, so I have to get really small plastic seat, get that in there as low as possible. Last time you saw this was a second ago, but for me, it's been 2-3 months. I don't know. I hit a snag, and when I say I hit a snag, I mean I hit like 3 or 4 snags. 1, the steering doesn't work, at least not how it's supposed to. 2, I'm having trouble getting the seat in the right place, and because the seat is having a hard time, getting these frame mounts are difficult, and then finding someone who has a lathe to do the work on the input shaft of the transmission has been a challenge. The front suspension is all fine and everything. I need, pay for the rear suspension to redo some of that. Yeah, for the front steering stuff, the reason why that video is taking so long is because, I had a bunch of ideas I'll cover in that video, but, oh my god, is that going to be much more expensive than I thought it was going to be. But regardless, you're here for the seat, and you wanted to see something a little bit more comfier than that piece of plywood there. And we already discussed that the hoveround seat is going to be too big. So, what are we going to do? Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my own seat, and I'm going to use that plywood as a base. I remove this piece of plywood here. See, that's where we cut those 2 nubs from before. This is just a piece of wood holding stuff up, so I'm not actually sitting on the transmission linkages and stuff, but we somehow need this to connect back to here. So I need to make like a metal box that the wood is encapsulated by on the edges and also keeps it from falling through, but also welds up to the back here. That's dilemma number 1 with the seat. Thankfully, I had this piece of 3/4 inch that is about the right size. This is the leftover piece from making the shelf on the welding cart. Sits in there fairly nice. Can't put it too far back because then I'm going to be hitting these springs back here, and obviously we don't want our seat, hindering our suspension. It's a little bit long. Sits over the edge here, but it's fine because your legs can go back a little bit. Obviously the back of the seat is not here, and that's a little bit uncomfy, I would say. I have some extra wood right here for that. You notice what that cut mark is from, you know what video this is from. So let me sit in this and I'll give you the idea. Well, here we are. Quite simple. Plenty of right leg room to press pedals, plenty of room for steering wheel stuff. I set the tachometer and the speedometer right in here just for the fun of it, get our indicator lights. We'll have our key panel here, our left and right bar, and then have our rear transmission linkage things connected here. I actually might shift this to be on the inside in case this thing rolled onto the right. I wouldn't want it, weighing on our shifter. I'm thinking about on the steering, I could do like paddle shifters, that way so it's easier to find neutral, because I know some people who do pneumatics to the linkage and everything down there, you can't find neutral with them, so maybe something a little bit more manual on it. If you notice the whole four-wheeler is tipping to the left, that's because of that. Yep, flat tires, need to buy new tires, that's still on the list. Finish the front suspension mounts, that's, I'll get to that when I'm doing the frame, and hopefully the frame will be one of the next things to do, but I gotta complete the seat that I'm sitting on here. So, plenty of leg room right here. I'll have to build some kind of platform here because, well, that's the drive shaft right there, and that's going to be spinning, so I don't really want my legs touching that, especially when I'm, I don't want it resting on it for pedals. That would be a terrible idea. So I'll have to make some kind of platform for that as well. One, I think we need to figure out how wide do we actually want the seat area to be, and then we'll trim down the actual piece of wood to that width, and then we'll make the frame out of some angle iron. I have some angle iron here that are from some bed frame. I think it's 1/8 inch thick. I feel bad because it's like 1.5 inch angle iron, but it's all I have, and well, it was free, so I might as well use it. I'll have to cut down the edges because that is 3/4 inch, and I don't want that sticking up any higher because then it'll be digging into whoever sits on it. So how wide do we want that? For reference, the hoveround seat is 21 inches wide, so let's see how far that actually is. This board is 24 inches, so that would put 21 about that wide, which I feel like is a pretty good width. I like that. Gives some pretty good wiggle room left to right. Hop in. Okay, that's pretty comfy. See, if my legs are together, I have maybe around 3 inches. Yeah, so I think this is pretty good, depending on where the pedals are going to be, depending on how wide you are as a person. I feel like that's pretty comfortable. Aesthetically, it's not that bad. It doesn't feel like it widens it more than it's unnecessary. Try maybe 20 inches. Feels a little bit cozier. Still feel pretty low in the frame, but also at the same time, I have plenty of leg room to move my legs around. Now, if you're wondering why I'm measuring everything from the back, because the front are already set location points. That just has to be where the front suspension meets up. And well, that's that. Frame that sits to my left and right, that will have to be bolted onto the front suspension, welded onto this rear crossbar. Ooh, does it need to be like a trapezoid? Because it gets wider in the front. Front here, it's 19.5 on the inside. Rear sitting at 18. Perhaps that's what I do. I want the seat to be part of these these sidebars. That way, so all one string piece, there's a vertical mount that goes straight from the sidebar straight down to the seat. Simple, clean, strong. That also makes it so the seat front mounts are connected to this rear bar in the back. Makes adding strength simpler. Just like how I'm going to, in the frame video, get to probably doing some of the dashboard stuff maybe, mounting some bars from up here to these bars down here, doing all the tab welds and everything, adding strength in general. Dilemma number 2, shape of the seat. Goes outward. Do I want the wood to end here or on the outside? Because somehow I have to connect from down here up. Same in the back. The back, I'm going to have to make some kind of seat rest that goes up a little bit too. I could start by cutting this 1-inch angle iron to 20 inches. That way so we know the exact length of that. That won't require any more cuts there. Cut down 20 inches. Be about the same length as that right there. Ah, on the dot. Nice. That will go there-ish. That will go there. So I don't want to get the welder out. I'll clamp it on for now. Much stiffer. Got some nice handlebars right here. Confidently grab onto. I like that. It's a good fit. I really thought the seat was going to need cushioning. Probably will need it when we get to like bumps and stuff. But right now, it just being such a flat, large surface, it's fairly comfortable for it to be like a bench, if you know what I mean. Don't worry about this. That's for another future upcoming project for a much later date. Right there. Figure out this part. Now I have to remember that the measurements I'm getting here are actually for the angle iron box I'm going to make. And it's not for the actual wood. Because the wood is going to be around a 1/4 inch shorter on each side. Because it's an 8-inch thick wall on the angle iron. So, you know, each side minus an 1/8 and that's 1/4. Let me grab some of that angle iron. Here's some. Gotta do acrobatics to get in here nowadays. I believe these were from an old bed frame, so it's got weird rivets on the ends of it. So that'll be the cut off side. 1.5 inches. Yeah, it's 1.5 inches angle iron. But hey, that means we get excellent underneath support and everything. Go under there. That fits nice. If we're lucky, we can get by only using 2 of these pieces of angle iron. Go front, side, back side. Okay, I got an idea, and I think I'm gonna roll with it. Okay, so now if I cut along that line and that line, this should line up to be the inside. Okay, so this guy, oh, look at that. That fits flush. You don't know what I mean. Look at that. Just a little bit of wiggle room for the angle iron. Okay, so now I can make the box around this guy. So, next day, I cut out the majority of the seat last night until I realized that I didn't cut this front edge because it sticks out a little bit too far underneath your leg. So I'm going to cut that off real quick with the saw. And then let's start doing the banding around with the angle iron. Good. So now we need to figure out how we're going to line up some of these pieces. I know I want back one to line up and they're like that, angled around to be along this edge. So we'll do basically that. We're going to have enough length to do the full back and the side, which is super nice. Then we don't have to deal with cutting up another piece, and then we'll have a little bit of extra. Just tested it out. Seems like it fits quite nicely. I'm just going to tack weld this in for now because I know since this isn't a 45-degree angle, I'm going to forget that and it's going to be wonky and I'm going to have to hammer it and then the welds are going to break. I might as well just tack it in now. The welder's already out. I totally need to prep that surface. Ooh, yep, burned that a little bit. Oops. Okay, settings are way too high. Much better. Ah, dang. Dang it. Today is not my day. It must have angled when I was welding. And no spring back on the clamps. Time to do this side. Good. I don't know when the camera died, but it did apparently. I have 3 sides of the box made. I'm cutting here to get the last segment made, and then I'll weld that in. fits nice. Oh, my shade setting changed. Huh, I wonder I couldn't see what I was doing. There we go, that's a good bead. Just a note, the welds actually look really good. Like, it's decent, good bead all the way across. I just don't like how it looks, and I want to paint over it, and I don't want a giant weld-shaped blob on a paint job. That would look a lot nicer if it just wasn't there. So, I'm getting rid of it. See, doesn't it look so nice? Nice and shiny. Like, look at that. You can see that shine in it. I like that. See, it fits in. Oh, it fits in there so nice. No rocking. But you can see here now, there's a lip. And when you sit on this, obviously you don't want your legs sitting on that lip. So, I'm going to cut the front lip off. I think I'm going to keep the side lip and the back lip just because I'm going to have vertical supports and I want that to be the thickest it can be. I'm cutting from the inside because that's where I drew my line. Yes. Ugh, but it does make cutting so much harder. There. There we go. That sits in there nice and flat. Looks like there's some extra weld bead on this one. Oh, that's exactly what that is. Ah, much better. Comes right up onto this lip. I think it's still sitting on some weld bead, but it's much less. When you sit on this, you're not sitting on the metal strip here because I sanded it down. Now we have these sharp points right here. Let's see where we want our vertical supports, and then I'll adjust from there. Didn't realize that you guys couldn't really see this. The metal right here is a little bit lower than this edge, all the way across. When you're sitting on it, you are sitting on the wood the full way. You're never on that pressure point of that metal there. This has to still be here just to supply, like, support, because right now we're just sitting on these 2 points and these 2, and we're really not supposed to sit on those at all, so that has to be there. It's going to be a little bit wonky for the second, but feel any pinch points even resting my legs down? No, don't. Okay, good. And I can see that when I slide this over that I did my math right, and I can see straight down on the inside down to here. That's good. So we're going to have to get some more of that angle iron and then go down weld to the side of the seat. So that would mean that the thing is supporting the seat are these side bars in the front and this rear bar in the back. It's actually fairly comfortable. You can definitely see that I cut these at different heights because front's at a wonky angle because of it. Just makes me realize that we're really close to transmission input. Hope that's not going to be an issue. We should be fine. Yeah. This is the biggest sprocket I even want on there. And if we have to change some, we can change the gearing on the front. We have about 2 inches above it. Good. We do have room for this. To weld it, I gotta get this thing back outside. Here are the angle iron cutoff pieces. So the idea for these, have this welded up here. Back here, yeah, and like that. So this will be welded on the outside, and then will be welded to the frame here. Forward a little bit. Drill straight into the 2 hollow beams right here. Can I go all the way through? I can. And then also the same hole in this angle iron here. And then that's how I'll bolt down this to the back, because I need that to be removable. And that has to be removable, because these front pieces have to be removable, because these pieces up here need to be removable to get this engine cradle to come out, so I can get the engine out if I ever need to. Yeah, to get the engine out, we need to remove the seat, the front suspension, and the engine cradle. It's basically taking it almost all apart. To be honest, how often are you going to need to remove the engine from this? It started raining. I had to bring everything inside. But yeah, things are starting to get wet. I'll have to pick up tomorrow. It's the next day. It's like 4 o'clock and the sun's setting, so that's great. Lose a bunch of time from that. I have to line up this back rail here because that is super important. This tab will line up with these front two. Front of this should be the front of this. So here's the second one made, and we'll go there-ish. Can take that out now. Stayed in place 3.5 exact, 3.5 exact, pretty much 3.5 exact. Now this back one I'm expecting to not get 3.25. That's because it's slightly bent. Yeah, but if we push down on it, we can get 3.5. We can do that because I didn't weld the back side of this one yet. So it feels nice and in there. A little bit of flex because this back corner's not in yet. And we realistically are only on tack welds right now, so we don't want to truss this. And I didn't realize that the mic didn't pair properly, so I'm sorry for the bad audio. Okay, let's get that seat in there. That looks so nice. Of course, I'm gonna have cushioning and stuff still put on it. Just as a first look though, it looks great. And we have plenty of room for the shifter linkages. I'll show you that in a minute. So now that we have the main seat on, we need to make something for the vertical support. And I think I'm gonna have to cut off these a little bit further back. They're sticking too far forward. I honestly don't know how tall I want this to be. The reason why I'm not doing these rear supports yet, it's because the rear supports are gonna come up past up here. So if it's gonna come up higher, I want it to support the rear of the seat as well. Yeah, I don't know about that. Can't sit in it, obviously, because it's just tack weld at crazy angle, so don't want to test this out at the second. Because see, if I put this in here, the 1-inch angle iron just for testing, it nicely fits the back of the seat. And imagine it, you know, goes all the way to the edge or something, because I want this to go around the back corner of this piece. That way, so it's secured on both sides, that, and this can lean up against it. It can't go full back because these tubes are still in the way. But then we have the rear of the seat supported, side of it supported, and then the back of it supported. I'm just checking how close the springs are. We're about 1/2 inch away from the springs, and the springs, please, don't look like they're coming anywhere near any of what we're doing. You know, it's weird. It really feels like the rear shocks are, nah, they're not working. They're pretty bouncy still, but they are a little bit better somehow. Regardless of that, we're good in that department. Grab some of the 1.5 inch because I don't think the 1 inch is going to be big enough. Yeah, I think the 1.5 is just better suited for this. It gives way more support on the back of the seat, but now this determines how far back we want it. I don't want it to be a perfect 90 degrees just because I feel like that would be uncomfortably stiff. Well, actually, currently I need to cut these back because they're sitting way too far forward. So let's first get that knocked out. There. So I got the wood in there, so I'm sitting on the wood and not the bent metal framing I got right now. First, test sit. Gotta be really careful. I'm gonna sit on the front first, because that is directly supported. Rear is not. Definitely feel it flex a little bit. Quite nice. Okay, let's go with that. If anything else, I can cushion it out. As it gets darker, it's really, really hard to see where I'm aiming now. Now, I know it's kind of hard to see from your perspective, but that's just a giant piece of angle iron just sticking straight up in the air. So now I have to figure out where I want to chop that down and then make the other side the same height. Honestly, I don't really want it much higher than this. I'm going to cut it right around here. Yeah, it's 7.5 right now. This one around. It's all lined up. Add some artificial daylight in here. I can't see what I'm doing now. It's not cut enough. There we go. I want to tack weld this in right here now. That right there, 3.5. 3.5 on the dot. Awesome. I need my artificial sunlight. Now let's cut that out. Now when I get in here, sturdy seat with a bit of a backboard. Still lets you lean back, what I wanted. I certainly like the handheld right here. Perfect amount of room for my legs. I think I actually want to make the back of the seat a little bit lower. I like it there because it stops you from sliding back, but it's not good in the sake that it's a little bit high enough to where it hits the middle of your back. So if you lean back, I feel pressure in my spine, but if it was a little bit lower, that pressure I don't think would be there. I'm going to have to cut that down a little bit. The main structure for the seat is finally in. Feels like we used the majority of the space that we have. So let's go over this. We have our vertical supports right there. Then we have our front bar being supported by those two supports right there. Comes over here. This vertical support, which is the same as that side. We have our rear seat mount because it touches the bottom of the seat. Goes up to the side of the frame here and then goes up a little bit higher past that. Notice that right here, that's my VIN number. And I'm trying to keep that as clean as possible because it would be really, really nice if I could get this, if I could register this somehow. Highly doubt it. But if I want to, I need to keep the VIN on the frame, which is why I welded on the side here versus right up against this edge here, because then it would maybe obstruct with the VIN number. I'll have to figure out how to weld around that maybe, or maybe I'll weld over it. I don't know. I'll have to find out if this is even possible to be registered anymore with this amount of modifications that are done to it. If we look down here side, there are two transmission linkages. See that we have enough room. It's hard to see there. It's 1/2 inch on that left one. It's like 1.5 inches above that right one right there. On the newer versions of these, the shift linkage is like right here on the side, so you get more clearance and stuff, but this is the older model and they're above. So, yeah, and there's two of them instead of just one. It's down there like that. Rear of the seat, just gonna sit back here, and then I'll have to pad the bottom, and yeah, it's looking good. It looks a little bit more, you know, massive in the front than it does the rear, but we have stuff we still need to do in the rear yet that I haven't even gotten to. Yeah, we're gonna have to balance that a little bit. It looks a little bit much. Kind of looks like one of those frogs. Yeah, looking a lot better. The next weekend, let's remove this back part and make an actual, like, rear side of the seat. I think we're gonna have plenty enough in here. See how that one fits. I don't remember which one was top, which one's bottom. Well, we'll find out. It only fit one way. There we go. Yeah, and the reason why it looks like there's a big gap there, this angle bracket, it's slightly bent backwards, which is probably more comfortable, to be honest. Give it a sit test. Yeah, it definitely needs to be lower. Yeah, it hits you right in the lower back where you don't like it. Out of the two options, this one's leaned back quite nicely. This one is quite vertical, but it's way more secure. So, question is, should I cut this bracket off, lean it back a little bit like the other one, or should I make them both 90 degrees? I like that side more. There we go. Yeah, it's still too high, inch too tall. So let's cut that down. Okay. In there like that. Oh, much better. Because like right here is like where your tailbone starts to like transition, and you can just bend over it if you don't have that sharp pressure in the middle of your back. Now it's just more of a thing that stops you from sliding back. Obviously, if something happens here, you're going backwards, but much nicer. And now trim down these angle pieces. Nice and level. This is a little bit further back for where the steering wheel's going to be, so since I'm leaning forward a little bit, that's good, because the steering wheel's going to be right around here. It's a nice vertical posture. Yeah, I like it. Will be way better with cushion. Oh, I didn't think about that. Cushion, you're going to sit higher. Yeah, we'll get to that later. And for everybody curious, and you're wondering how am I going to access to the transmission stuff, I'm going to just take off these two rear clamps. Watch this. Ta-da! This whole seat and strengthening right here is removable. So, yeah, that does mean that I have to, like, get that all in here, but it means that I can still have access to the transmission down there, you know, when I need to have full access or need to pull it or get to these shock mounts, because you could get to the shock mount still from like behind the seat. It's not that great, let's be honest, but that does mean that I need to get like this secured in there. When I get to like finishing the frame video or whatever, when I add like mounts down here and up there, back, add some cross structure, when I get to that video, I'll do all that stuff, but for right now, it's just getting the seat in here. It's a little dark, but we can take a look. Just some bad welding there, back here, there, up here. Like I said, these are not welded in yet because those probably should be bolted in, to be honest. So I'll probably do that by bolting it down from the inside. I think that'd be best. Same weld. A little bit of a back angle you can see from here. You can see how it's angled back a little bit. It just makes it a little bit more comfy. And this sits right below where like your lower back really feels like it starts. So when you sit here, you just kind of lean back over it. Makes it a lot more comfortable than it trying to support the upper of your back just by half of the upper of your back, if you know what I mean. Just more comfortable that way. Plenty of leg room. If you're tall, you wouldn't have any issues in this. I'm 5'6", and I'm very, very comfortable in here. Got plenty of leg room, both forward, back, side. So it's somewhat narrow in the back, but you can see it widens in the front. And then down here where the pedals are going to be and everything, plenty of room right here to move your feet around. Like I said, plenty. I'm gonna have to do something about these holes down here because that's not the safest of things, but pedals will be somewhere around here. I need to build some kind of brace so your leg can't accidentally hit the drive shaft here to the front diff. But yeah, plenty of room on each side. Yeah, it's nice. While the seat is not completely finished, it's mostly in, it's just tack welded in, but that's just because I have to grind off some more paint. This has been a decent bit of time over the past few weekends, just little bits, you know, adding on and stuff. I don't remember how long it's been. It's been a while since one of these videos has come out, so you can just see I've either been working on other stuff or been slowly ticking away little things on this. And I really wanted to get the seat cushion onto the seat in this video, but I've just run out of time. This video has to go up, so I will do that soon. But before I get all the nice cushions, you know, and everything in here, I want to get all the other stuff welded up because I would hate to put, you know, brand new cushions and everything in here and then have it completely melted by MIG wire and MIG spark going everywhere. That would suck. So the next video, I think I'm going to be working on getting this frame structure more finalized and stuff, getting the mounting points for here, back here, the back, and the other side, all that stuff, getting some cross bracing in maybe, some of that stuff, but that will have to be for another day. It's pretty uncomfortable the way it is, but yeah, it needs some cushioning.